Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. In today's episode, we'll be breaking down the third episode of Cape Fear on Apple TV+. Joining me for the conversation is Sona. Hey, Sona, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. What a absolutely thrilling comeback by the Knicks.
Amazing. Yes.
And tonight, right? The next game, we have another? Tomorrow. Okay.
Saturday.
Interesting. It was last Friday, but this Saturday. Oh, because they're traveling.
Yeah, they'll be in Texas.
What a thrilling game. I actually fell asleep with a few minutes to go.
So did my husband and woke up to me squealing, "It's a 1-point game." So he was able to see the most exciting part at the end.
I missed it. I actually fell asleep and did not watch the end of the game, assumed they had lost, and then I checked the score in the morning and I'm like, what? I have got to see the last few minutes of this game. And then rewatched it in the morning. Things back. Although, I mean, like, I actually fell asleep when they had started to come back. They had chipped away at it in the second half. So there was a chance that they could win. I had just fallen asleep because I was just tired.
Yeah, it took them a long time to close that gap.
And then I just assumed that they might have been down by 9 or something, but still doable. But, I just assumed that the momentum didn't seem to be on their side. But what an amazing comeback. 29 point. It's a record, right? So pretty amazing.
Yes. And NBA finals anyway. Yeah.
True. And Brunson again making things work. But man, that last, that tip in, what a heart attack. I mean, even knowing I saw it after I already knew when it happened, and still a heart attack to watch that play and just see that he missed it. I'm like, wait a second, I thought they won. And then that tip in is incredible.
Yeah.
You couldn't have scripted it better. That's the amazing thing about sports.
Well, when I think it was Josh Hart, right, had a breakaway down the court and missed it. That was like, oh no, that was going to be it. And it's not going to happen now. So it was great that it still came together for them in the end.
It's true. I mean, the sequence of events at the end of that game are actually truly amazing. You could have run down the clock and set up but they thought they had like a layup, and to have it blocked, and then for it to go the other way, and then for Brunson to miss the 3-pointer, but then get it tipped in, it's insane. And with 1 second on the clock, again, you couldn't have scripted this. It's like, it seems like something out of a sports film, but it's pretty amazing.
My husband thinks it will be a Spike Lee movie. It will be the setting for the next Spike Lee movie.
Okay, as far as Cape Fear goes, just a quick announcement to everybody. We'll see how you feel about this episode of the show, Sona. But I do want to announce that we will be covering episode 4 next week for sure. The next week, we will, unless something really crazy happens on the show, we may just briefly discuss it because, Sona, the next season of The Bear is coming out. So, and of course, a binge on the 24th. So that Friday, the 25th, I believe it will be, we will be, or 26th. Did I get that right?
Well, let's see. Today's a Friday and it's the 12th. So 14 days from now will be the 26th.
So yes, on the 24th, The Bear is coming out. So we will discuss it on the 26th in lieu of Cape Fear. Like I said, maybe something crazy will happen on Cape Fear and we'll just quickly dip in and say, can you believe that happened? Which I wouldn't be surprised at all with the show. But in general, we'll probably be mostly talking about The Bear. By the way, Sona, the agency is coming back that same week as a binge, which is crazy. That whole show coming back as a binge.
Oh, wow. With all the same people?
All the same people, yeah, on Paramount+. And I assume on Showtime as well. So that will be there as well. So we could probably discuss that here and there. But a lot of shows premiering at the end of the month, and we probably will cover some of that. We'll discuss the agency here and there. Darren, I think, is going to watch that, so we'll probably discuss some of that there. Oh. But The Bear we'll try to watch the first 2 episodes of The Bear minimally, if not more, and discuss it in that episode. But then the following week, again, we will probably wrap up the entirety of The Bear. The Bear has been very popular for us here on the show, on the podcast, and I assume that culturally the final season of The Bear is a bigger deal than this season of Cape Fear, I would presume. Although the Cape Fear show is apparently doing pretty well. We got pretty good ratings on our first episode. So that's the idea. And then, of course, after that, we will come back to Cape Fear. At that point, we'll be in the home stretch. So we'll see, if we've completely tapped out of the show we'll probably have made a decision at that point as well. But just to give everybody a heads up, next week, definitely discussing episode 4 of the show, then primarily focused on the bear for 2 weeks. And then we'll come back in July at that point, and we'll probably be in the last 3 or 4 episodes of Cape Fear, and we'll see where we're at on the show there. And if we're not talking about Cape Fear, I'm sure there's other things to be discussed. By chance, Sona, did you watch any more of Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed?
I have not, actually, but I wouldn't mind returning to it.
That's another thing we could discuss here and there as well. The show has become like just a mechanism to put this protagonist through the ringer. So I am, that's thrilling in its ways, but it's mostly plot. But it's, I'd still be curious to get your thoughts on that show. Okay, and now before we get into episode 3 of Cape Fear, Phantom Sensations is the name of this episode. I did want to mention a couple of things from last week that I forgot to talk about, mostly in episode 2, since we rushed through that to episode
Yeah, we were in a little bit of a hurry.
A couple of big ones. One, of course, I completely forgot to mention this, but it is touched upon in this very episode again, that Anna's father shows up to drop off some cleats, I think, for his granddaughter. And apparently a terrible relationship between him and the daughter. He seems a little unstable, to say the least. And but played by Ted Levine, by the way. Ted Levine from, of course, one of your favorite shows, Monk. But also in the context of...
Oh my gosh, I did not realize that. Wow.
Do you make that connection?
Yes.
But from the there has been word that there are many cameo appearances in this series of shows.
We got a big one. Well, this is not necessarily a cameo in this episode. I think she's going to be back.
And I think Levine might come back as well. But I was going to mention that there's probably going to be there's definitely going to be more guest stars and cameos from thrillers from the 90s, from this era of thrillers. But of course, Ted Levine is Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Important point there. Anyway, forgot to bring him. We were kind of rushing through the plot, especially episode 2. So I did want to mention that. Of course, another thing I didn't really touch on that much in last week's episode that I forgot to bring up in our conversation is that we also discover that in this flashback sequence that Max's father, his adoptive father, had been very abusive to him and had trained him like a dog, basically. And there's also some religious indoctrination that occurred there. So that might have something to do with his psychology now. But again, I wanted to circle back to that because, of course, the whole imagery of the dog and training the dog and even a flashback to him inside of a cage comes back in this particular episode of the show. So definitely wanted to bring that up. And the last thing I wanted to bring up is just, once again, just like Reddit research that there is a drug that is used in some South American practices. I don't think that, we have seen in episode 1 and episode 2 something going on, these like clay pots, and there seemed to be some kind of, I just said it was Santeria. I don't know enough about this.
Is it like ayahuasca? That
it's not ayahuasca, but there is just this this kind of religious imagery we saw with the girlfriend who shot herself in the head.
Oh, I didn't pick up on it in that opening scene. Okay.
There's like a saint and there's some beads hanging on it. And but also the, of course, then there's when they find this area where something occurred. This was kind of my suspicion, by the way, that even though the son's been coming in and out of the house, that the reason that they even mentioned, how did he get out of the house when he disappears, was toe missing. She says, we didn't hear the door go off if he went out in the middle of the night. But then there was a suspicion I had based on him sitting on that yellow sofa and that kind of nondescript area he was in, that he might have been in the part of the house that was under construction. And then, of course, we found all those bowls there. This all comes back to what I was mentioning here, that not my research, but just internet research, that there's something called devil's breath. And apparently devil's breath is a drug that makes people incredibly susceptible, and it makes it impossible for them to create memories. So anyway, all this is to say that this is probably what he was under the influence of when he was only not over, maybe told, because they supposedly can identify that he actually bit his own toe off. that maybe he was told to do this, and that he it doesn't have a memory of it, doesn't recollect it because of this. So it is possible that is what we're seeing here. Darren's theory, by the way, Sona, in the most recent episode, when I had a conversation with him, was that the dad, this is a show where I think we can just enjoy having crazy theories. His theory was that the dad felt really bad about the son having to go to that military school, so that he had microdosed the son, but I guess macrodosed him with a large dose, and gotten him to bite his own toe so that he would not qualify to go to military school. But I don't think that's quite what we saw there.
Wow.
I was like, wow, that the dad's really committed to keeping this kid out of
do we know that you need all your toes to go to military school?
I think the mental condition might, I think that might disqualify you more than the missing toe. The fact you bit off your own toe, I think, is more than the actual missing toe. Anything else you wanted to bring up related to last week? Oh, of course, the other thing I forgot to bring up last week is, which was a very important scene, which is part of the reason that Anna misses the appointment with that person in the prison who's kind of losing his will to fight, is, of course, we'd seen in the very first episode that son and his mom, something bad had happened in the house, whether someone did something to them or whether they were just fighting. It appeared that they were fighting, so they could go either way.
We forgot to talk about that. I agree. That occurred to me after. Yeah.
And we'd seen their feet in episode 1, so we knew they were probably dead in there. And we actually found out that they found their bodies last week, by the way. I forgot to bring that up completely. Episode 2 really got short-shrift.
Well, so did episode 3. So
right.
So we're not alone.
And I think that's most of the stuff I wanted to circle back to in this week. And of course, all these things immediately come to mind, like when the episode opens and they're at the funeral for that family. I'm like, oh, yes, I should have brought that up last week.
Yeah.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Oh, importantly here, I got a couple of emails, people saying that they probably would not watch, that they've been watching Widow's Bay and they weren't expecting to enjoy it, but they've been loving it. However, because these are people who are basically saying, I normally wouldn't watch horror, but given Sona's reaction to the gore in Cape Fear, that maybe I won't watch that show. And I will say... Well, no, I mean, but I think that is a good warning for people. I think that is definitely there's some really gross violence in both of those first 2 episodes. But I only bring that up for the fact that I thought that might be a motif that we see some really grisly.
I was relieved this week.
Yes.
I was so relieved.
This week, we get the cold, by the time we get the title card, every time the title card has showed up, it's after something really grotesque happened in the first 2 episodes. And not this case. This case, we just have some squatters invading Tom's pool.
Yeah, that was bizarre. There was the flashback, though, to the prison scene, but it was nothing compared to what actually was shown prior.
I think that was on the previously on, though, right? Was that just on the previous?
Oh, was it? Okay, maybe.
I might be wrong about that. Maybe. I mean, he definitely has a couple of flashback moments here, so it's possible it's in there. Oh, and importantly, by the way, this the guy in this couple that we meet out there is Ethan Embry, who's like a child actor, pretty recognizable character.
Speaking of cameos, I guess, even though I didn't recognize him.
Well, that's why I bring it up. I'm like, feels pretty certain that they wouldn't only cast this guy in one scene. He's probably going to come back in some.
Yeah, well, I think clearly it wasn't just coincidence that they decided to crash this particular family's pool, right?
For sure. But I think if they got like a no-name character actor, then
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like that, this might be a one and done, but then why would you? Right. I have a feeling he'll come back at some point in the future. Do you believe in squatters' rights on someone's pool, by the way?
I do not believe in squatters' rights in any context.
How about stand your ground?
More complicated question, but unless you believe your life is in imminent danger, which would, I think, take you beyond that anyway. No, I don't.
What is what do they say in Florida? It's not, sorry, not California, in Savannah. They're saying it's not stand your ground. It's even a more, what is it? Even more extreme.
I thought he said stand your ground. So at least that's, I guess, what my brain heard it to be.
Oh man, it's like something doctrine. I forget what the name of it is.
I'm trying to Google it. Well,
Castle
Georgia
doctrine.
does have a
Castle
stand your
doctrine.
ground law. Sorry, go ahead.
Castle doctrine.
Huh.
Oh no, yes, no, that's what it is. So stand your ground is actually is anywhere. The castle doctrine is only in your home. So
I see. I guess because we don't have that here, I was kind of collapsing those two ideas.
and now I don't know which one Savannah has. Savannah has both stand your ground and castle doctrine. But since his pool is in his backyard, I think we're talking castle doctrine here in this case.
Yes, I think that's right. I think as I am learning about this in real time, the Georgia Stand Your Ground law requires you to reasonably believe it is necessary to use force to prevent death, serious injury, or a forcible felony. Forcible felony is a big gray area, I would think. But
what do you think about this scene? It shows us that Tom is on edge. It shows us that Tom has guns. I think it's very important that we see that.
yes, multiple.
Exactly. I think it's important that we see that gun locker with multiple guns in there. So that's definitely going to play out at some point in the future. I mean, this could turn into a home invasion type sequence at some point later on. And I guess we know where the guns are. So that'll be interesting that they like set the groundwork here. But I think another thing that's happening here psychologically, and I think this is more broadly in some ways ties back into the themes of the traditional Cape Fear previous adaptations, is that it's really about the family, like the putting the screws to the family is making them psychologically crack. And I think when you see the husband, when you see Tom not only reaching for the gun so readily, but even later on when you see him working out, it's like he's constantly microdosing as well too, right? So he is not dealing well with his personal problems. And this is just one more thing to add to the fire there.
Well, we don't know how long he's been microdosing. Maybe this is not in connection with personal problems. Maybe this is just a lifestyle choice.
Well, I mean that if this has been going on for a while, that, if he already needs to microdose to this, of course, has created a whole other level of anxiety for him.
I suppose, as it would for anybody. Yes.
Sure. And of course, I think that is even more pronounced in the fact that we don't even know that it's not even like there's just somebody out there who's messing with his family, but they know that they're culpable in something that we still don't know. They, of course, the show very much wants us to remember that. And
that was in the previously on for sure.
Well, that was in the previously on. And then in this very show, like later on, he is on the phone. I think she's in the car traveling with Katie later on. And Tom is talking to her saying, like, don't stir the pot. He can't possibly know. And it's again, it's this idea that he has this guilt or anxiety about whatever they did before. So the show is very much telegraphing that this shoe is going to drop at some point.
But I want to say, for anybody who did get a little bit freaked out by my previously being freaked out, this episode had a much different tone to me than the first two. And maybe also part of the issue was that I watched the first two in one sitting. So it felt like it was just amping up the graphic violence. But I much preferred the tone of this episode or at least I found it a lot less anxiety inducing than the first two episodes, if that is encouraging to anyone. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Well, I think that their show is trying to slow down its pace because this is a long season. So they don't want to. That's what I was worried about actually after those first two episodes. It seemed to be a pattern they were developing there. And I'm like, are they going to keep cranking it up like this every episode? Like how this is going to...
Yeah, where could it end? Yeah.
Right, they're going to run out of story at some point, right? Or it's going to be so over the top by the time we get to the end. So it looks like they're slowing things down. And but I don't think you're wrong. And my wife was practically wanted to quit the show right away with not the first gunshot to the head, but the second gunshot to the head.
Yes.
It's obviously the show is very intentionally broadcasting that it's going to be over the top. And honestly, I think that was a mistake for them to open the show that way. Not only does it potentially turn people off, but if you do want to like now slow it down and make it more about the stresses within the character, I presume that at some point there is going to be a giant confrontation on Cape Fear, and it's going to be bloody and crazy, just like it's been in previous adaptations of this. But they may want to slow it down before they get back to that. Then maybe don't have like a blood spattered wall as like one of the opening images of the whole entire series. And of course, then don't reinforce that by having a really grotesque murder sequence at the
maybe
gymnasium.
space them out a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, that flashback could have easily come mid-season. We don't have to, kind of set that tone so early on.
So sorry, I interrupted you, but I just wanted to get that out there. That I do feel relieved after seeing this third episode.
I agree. This is like maybe and anybody who's been reluctant to watch this, it's like skip the first few minutes of the first two episodes.
Yeah, exactly. If you skip the first 6 minutes or so, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Right. Just fast forward till you get to the title, Cape Fear, in both instances, and you're fine.
Yeah, you'll be able to infer back whatever you need to know.
Exactly. Yeah. Or watch the previously on. They'll recap it there. Anyway.
Yes.
But in a much more abbreviated way.
More truncated. Yeah.
Right. All right. Anna, again, I wasn't a huge fan of Anna tricking her son into unlocking his phone last week, I should say, by saying...
it was clever, though.
It was. Oh, yeah? Well, what's this picture then?
Yeah.
he got so mad. It is cunning, but it is also like not the kind of sneak attack you should be doing with your kids, in my opinion.
Oh, I think I know what you're about to say, which is she's really blown beyond any.
She's cloned his phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's cloned his phone and is not only monitoring him, she's cloned his phone and is now like pretending to be him, setting up these meetings, deleting the conversations. Like
bananas.
This is really incredibly shady. What do you think is going to, do you think that's foreshadowing there that in the middle of this, that the daughter walks in and she like shoves the phone into the sofa? Is she going to leave that phone out where someone can find it? And like that betrayal is going to be, I presume at some point, like if the son finds out and like, let's say that he is getting ghosted by this girl and then finds out that it's the mom, this is not going to go well.
It felt very specific, the shot of her shoving it into the sofa cushions rather than a pocket or throwing it in a bag of hers or something like that.
Like the phone's going to ring later. She shoved it into the sofa.
Yeah.
And he'll hear the phone ringing upstairs and downstairs at the same time and be like, what is this? What? Mom!
The invasion of privacy there is giant.
Oh, and by the way, that interruption comes because the daughter wants to borrow the mom's dress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The mom is presumably, does this make sense? I mean, I'm going to jump all the way to the end. They're quoting a Butthole Surfer song from the mid 90s. So presumably these people are about our age. So they probably were like college-ish age at that time, right?
Agreed.
So the mom this is her dress from I guess that makes sense. I was going to say like, so 30 years ago, she's in college, 35 years ago or so. So it is. I was going to say this dress looks pretty like 80s, maybe early 90s.
Yeah,
and
when you
that
said
is probably what I'm
from
talking
the
about.
90s, I feel it's a little more 80s. But yes, I was doing that same math in my head. Yeah.
90s, maybe she means like 91.
Right. That's the same thought I had. Yeah.
Which is when the movie came out, actually. So there you go. Maybe it's all going back to that.
Maybe there are just a lot of little references to that time period.
Oh, by the way, let's one step back. The clone phone comes from Ray, and going back to the idea of maybe this is not the best way to deal with things with your kids. I like that Ray tells her, I should say, shouldn't you just talk to your son?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, maybe you should. And also this whole idea, like where she is nefariously planning all this stuff. Maybe there's like the problem with her being a prosecutor and having dealt with these type of people before. Plus, of course, her guilt in some ways about stuff that's happened. We don't even know all the details of that yet. But the idea that this is all happening because of Max, and she's like on this attack trail against him. But I mean, I think he's absolutely right. You know, she makes the whole Godfather reference, right, to keep your enemies close. But he's right? Like that, you know, on the one hand, he's saying that's not actually what his intention was, because he's saying, first of all, he has been wronged by the system, right? If he truly has been exonerated, you should, A, be on his side, and B, at least pretend to be on his side, because that's the only way you're going to be able to work this. I mean, if you're antagonistic at all times, you're going to look like, why are you acting this way? Aren't you supposed to be on this guy's side? And then, right. Of course, and then on top of that, the fact that you're just alienating yourself from him. And like, if you're not close by, you don't know what he's doing, then, you know, that is just, it's just a good piece of advice is what it comes down to. And of course, sets up the whole situation where at first she seems uncomfortable. Like, wait a second, he's going to be traveling with me. And then she's going to be like, okay. Because this is all part of this. Mm-hmm. I like, by the way, that they're negotiating when they're going to go, and all this is all happening very coldly, calculating, having this conversation, especially Noah, who's proven to be extremely calculating in all of her interactions. And this is all happening at the funeral of the last guy they just got out of jail.
But did we get any details about what happened there? If we did, I missed it.
Not in this episode. In last week's episode, there was some passing conversation about that
right, but
I'd heard,
not like really, right?
That no one circled back to it to confirm one way or the other. It was just exactly what was expressed before, that I'd heard they were fighting. The neighbors said there was some shouting and then gunshots, and they called the police. Now, what I'm curious about there, by the way, is the shouting and then the gunshots, and then that's when the police show up. That couldn't have been, they were already dead when that happened. So I think there's something else going on there is what it comes down to.
Because that's what I'm saying. I think there's something else, but we haven't gotten information yet about that. We just have the superficial information, right?
Right. There. Yes. So okay. Whatever the secondary piece of information that is to come, I presume, it has not been expressed. Okay. So yeah, but what we did see, which I hadn't even thought about it until now, but she goes and checks on the house, and we see that their bodies are inside. We see their feet. And then later on, they mentioned that they had been shouting and they heard gunshots. So I assume that hadn't happened before, or else the cops would have already been called in. So it seems like someone may have killed them and then staged the fight to make it look like it was an argument between the two of them. And apparently they had been arguing a lot anyway. So,
right.
But all that is to say that it's just a clue to us that this is probably, or almost certainly not an innocent shooting. I mean, not as innocent as it looks, or
if we ever thought it was. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, while the funeral's going on, Max is out getting some ice cream. This is a bizarre scene, by the way, getting some ice cream at the middle of this park. It's such a weird setup for this, to be honest, like that we're cutting from the funeral to him in the park. And I kind of understand the purpose of this scene, but it is a bizarre scene. And also just the fact that it happens while he's getting himself ice cream, really bizarre.
I guess it's the discordant nature of the innocence of eating an ice cream cone and what happens here that we're supposed to be.
I suddenly have an image in my mind, and I might have like incepted this into my own head, but I also seem to remember there was a scene where De Niro is eating an ice cream cone very theatrically in the original movie, but I may have invented that in my mind.
Listen, I remembered him in those heart-shaped sunglasses, which, as you pointed out, is a Lolita reference, although they have it here for this Cape Fear. And then I Googled after we talked, 1991 Cape Fear sunglasses, and there are a lot of shots of Robert De Niro wearing sunglasses, although there are not in the same shape. So I don't know. All of these cultural things like amalgamate.
I think I remember De Niro, and I have not seen that movie in so long, but I think I remember him driving down the street in a convertible and like kind of looking, with the sunglasses at the tip of his nose and kind of looking over the top of the sunglasses, like kind of thing I remember from the film. But yeah, not the heart-shaped sunglasses.
Right. So I think on the one hand, the character wore sunglasses quite a bit, but on the other, they were not these sunglasses. So
The Lolita reference is interesting there because, of course, you
it
have
is interesting.
in the original crime
Yes.
that in the original book and the previous movies, even the 1962 movie, he rapes a teenager, although they don't explicitly call it a rape. But in the 57 novel, it is a rape overtly. So then, of course, there's the threat of this older man on this younger woman. And of course, the plot of Lolita also, right, is like this guy preying on this younger girl.
Well, and the whole, in the 1991 version, the whole thing with Juliette Lewis's character
course.
is so charged.
Which has me asking a lot of questions here. We'll get around to it.
Yeah.
Oh, but when this woman starts to flirt with him so overtly and asking questions about the case, so grotesque questions, by the way. What did you make of this? I'm thinking this is like a journalist or something, and she's trying to get, or another podcaster, those damn podcasters, trying to get like a quote from him or something. But of course, it still has some commentary here in the fact that, and he even mentions it, that there are crazy women all over the country that are, trying to woo him, like via letters and photos and such. I remember being shocked, by the way, although I'm aware of this culturally, but I don't really watch that much true crime. But I remember watching the documentary last year, 2 years ago on Netflix about the Hillside Strangler in California. Very interesting. There's a lot of found footage using actual footage from the time. So it's pretty well done. And they show when he's on trial, and they literally show like the hundreds and hundreds of letters he would get with Polaroids in it from these girls that are like, kill me next, kill me next. I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with people who are in love with killers? It's so I think they're definitely, this woman at least is pretending to be one of these groupies, but
I assumed
maybe
it was genuine, but maybe I wasn't examining it closely enough.
She was asking so many questions about the case directly. I mean, which of course a groupie might, because
right, if that's their thing, yeah.
But I also thought it could be just a journalist trying to play out as a groupie. She doesn't like having the ice cream licked off her face. It doesn't seem. Or the threat of being
I was
choked
about
to
to
death.
say she didn't like being threatened with murder.
Maybe a little choke was okay.
Right. It seemed to be, yeah.
This was like very I think that Bardem has some really good scenes here. I'll shout out a specific one later that I thought was really good, but this was not my favorite performance of his. Also, like the lick when he licks her face and is like, "Nice to meet you," and walks away.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I guess it is coming back to that idea of him being treated like a dog. That is something that a dog would do.
Good point. Didn't think about the dog connection, but yeah, good point. As we mentioned, Anna has that cloned phone. This is at the night. Jumped to this already, but the Natalie borrows her dress, and she assumes this is Max, by the way, and gets her to send a photo, which gives away where she is, and Natalie shows up. And what do you think about this scene, right? Like, so now we know who this girl is. She's probably been in the house before. Who do you think who do you think this girl is? And how does she relate to the story?
I'm sorry, I got confused. Did you say Natalie?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was talking about Anna, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, it's Anna and Nevia, if that's the way you say the name. That scene you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought, it was reminding me of our discussion about maximum pleasure, the way she uses context cues to figure out where that girl is.
This is true.
Right?
Yeah, there's a connection there.
And I also thought, I don't know, this whole idea about cloning the phone and deleting messages. I feel like at some point it's going to be clear that something doesn't track in the conversation. But I guess it doesn't matter, since in the end, she says anyway that she's blocked Zach. I thought it was kind of interesting, I guess, that this girl seems to have such a strong personality, but didn't object to Anna grabbing her bag and rifling through it. I feel like someone with that kind of personality would be like, give me that back, and struggle a bit. She just seemed all in all a little bit too agreeable in that conversation. And I wonder if there's more going on for that reason.
I guess she's surprised that she's there.
I guess, and maybe it's a New Yorker in me, but I would be like, no way you're putting hands on anything that I own.
Maybe she's afraid if she makes a stink that the maybe she doesn't want this to escalate because
Maybe.
that was my read on it, was that she doesn't want it to escalate because she has other things going on, which of course she does indeed. And that was mainly why I thought that she played this down or let this thing play out the way it did.
Do you think this is, obviously it's not the end of it with this girl, but do you think she really did block Zach? Do you think she's still not talking to Zach somehow? I guess Anna would know since she has the phone.
Right. So first of all, I think that she probably is blocking. Well, there's a couple of things. One is she might have blocked Zach, but Zach still has his burner. So if she has that number, which I'm pretty sure she probably does, then she'll still communicate with him there. However, it looks like she may have a new angle to come and manipulate the family.
Yeah.
So
as I was saying it, I was thinking about that. Yes.
And maybe like making Zach, if she just shuts him out and he literally starts to just melt down or spiral out, that might be better for her anyway, right? Because maybe that's her intention. If she's just trying to become a chaos agent within the family, then Zach being a mess is better for her. Zach finding out that she's now hooking up with his sister is going to freak him out even more, possibly. However, you know what? I'm thinking like off the top of my head, I'm like, this is Katie's daughter, possibly as well. And then I'm like, hold on a second. So if that's the case, and Natalie's also Katie's daughter, is our theory from last episode, then that better not be the case because these girls are making out with each other in this episode. Boy. Another reason that contradicts my point, where I'm like, who is this girl and how is she attached to all of this? Because obviously she is definitely manipulating them to some purpose. And I assume it's because of the Katie case, but maybe not. Maybe it is related to somebody else that they've wronged as well. Like it's possible that it's not.
But that would require it to be a complete coincidence that she's using the same phrases.
Oh, good point. So she's what? But you know, she's a tech savvy person here who we know that she's able to, for example, leak or send out a bunch of texts that seem to be coming from Natalie's phone. And she probably is the one who piloted this drone also. So it's possible that she is trying to get to the family and is setting up Katie as the fall guy for this. And the way she's doing that is because she's also infiltrated his computer, let's say, for example. And and I think the part of that ties into that theory is that earlier on when Tom is saying to Anna that you're making too many assumptions that this is Max who's doing all this, he was, or I should say, Zach was already communicating with this girl when he was still in prison. And she makes the point that, well, they have the internet in prison now also, right? So again, I think that
sometimes they do. Yeah.
They think they bring that up intentionally to be like, maybe she hacked his, maybe she was monitoring his chats in prison. So she's been, eavesdropping on conversations that Max had as well. So this allows him to be manipulated by her. But you know what? He's the one who's making the references to things that are already in the chat. So that's an interesting, so maybe that contradicts my point I just made. So maybe she has been eavesdropping on Max's communications theoretically, but he's the one who makes the reference to like fingers and toes, right?
And being patient.
And then that's in the chat log from before as well. So so he's the one who's leaking this out. So why is that? And then she's just going to, let's say she had a similar conversation with him via chat. She just knows he's going to use the same words. Doesn't seem to make sense. So Katie does still seem to be the one who might be pulling the strings. I was inverting it there for a second. I'm like, imagine she is wronged in some other way associated to another case that they may have worked on. And she's actually using Katie to drive them crazy. But that doesn't make sense because then why is Katie knowing to drop these phrases and such at the right time?
I kind of love the idea that maybe the way this is going to deviate from the movie is Katie is just an exonerated guy trying to live his life who gets caught up in everybody else's machinations. But I don't think that's how it's going to end up, though.
I actually started thinking that this week that it would be kind of a cool reversal if he is innocent and they think he's guilty and then they ruin his life again.
Right.
And then he does end up on the boat trying to murder the family. But
because
it's not
they've driven him to this. Yeah.
They drive him insane. That would be a cool reversal, actually. So we'll see if that actually ends up being the case. Another thing that doesn't make me think that at first, my gut instinct immediately was this girl is Katie's, like another daughter that he had. But another thing that kind of contradicts that in my own mind was when she shows a picture to her and says, by the way, who's this guy? And her instant reaction goes, I don't know, some old guy that I'd like to blank.
Yeah.
And if that's your dad, you could probably come up with other things to say to negate that you know who they are. But it just seems that if that's the first thing that comes out of her mouth, probably not something she'd say about her dad. Oh, and what do you think about Anna walking out and saying, by the way, if you're homeless, here's a shelter to go check out? I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah. I guess
a little presumptuous, though.
Well, I think they're actually trying to develop her character as somebody who is compassionate and really does want to help other people.
So maybe
I took that as like a note of character development because it makes no sense otherwise.
And I guess we'll find out more, at least about the identity of this person who she claims to be based on her ID, because Anna does have Ray run a background check on her. And the name might be fake, but I would assume you can get like a facial scan or something and see photos of her on the internet and maybe some way figure out who she is. That night when she gets back home, and this is when Tom has the conversation with her saying, maybe you're putting too much onto this relationship with Max. I just want to put a pin in this because I think it's going to matter, is that this is part of Anna's psychology. He keeps trying to tell her, you're safe now, you're safe because of her childhood. So her dad seemed to be so mentally unstable and so... Yeah, so that circles back to this fact that she doesn't want to have anything to do with her dad. So who knows how bad things were when she was young, but apparently it's made her paranoid and maybe worse.
Yeah.
The next morning she goes downstairs and she finds out Max is in her kitchen cutting tomatoes very adeptly.
Teaching our son how to cut tomatoes.
Yeah, you don't have to bite your toe off. This is the proper way to... And of course, as he walks out the door, he leaves a little bit of the sandwich behind for the cat to eat. Oh, poor peanut butter. We barely knew ye. I will not.
Oh, stop.
You know what? They killed a dog in the movie and in the book. So
is that right? I didn't know.
There's no dog, but I think the poor kitty, peanut butter, is toast.
No, don't say it.
Speaking of dogs, there's of course he has a dog now. Max does, and a dog has pooped on their lawn. Again, the idea that if the camera equipment is on the fritz because somebody who's very technically savvy and, of course, has been inside the house is able to literally make the video jump from before the poop is there. Now the poop magically appears. So literally blanking out the video when whoever came with a dog, must be Max with his dog, I presume, pooping on their lawn, shades of your friends and neighbors. We know how that all works.
Yes.
Out. So
let me say also, let's hope it's a dog.
Good point. But if that glitched out perfectly at that moment, again, it seems like that whatever's happening with Max and whatever's happening with this girl, assuming that she is the tech genius here, and she does seem to be, then yeah, they are definitely in cahoots in some way. So the relationship between them is still unclear. But yeah, this they need to get a new system. I mean, just get a whole new system at this point. If they're not noticing that everything's glitching out exactly when the kid wanders out of the house, people are in their house, people are in the backyard. Like your system needs to be revamped.
Yeah, and also, I guess I'm having a hard time taking the temperature of this family as to how stressed out they are about all of these weird things that are happening. I guess that, to use the actors' names, because I can't remember, Patrick Wilson is trying to calm Anna down and telling her she's worrying about nothing. But there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of weird crap happening. And he doesn't seem particularly worried. But then, I don't know, when the people are in the pool, he goes and gets the gun. Like, it's just hard for me to say, where are people landing on how stressed out they are by these very weird happenings? I'm more on Anna's side.
All of this, yeah, I agree. But all of this stuff is, I agree with your assessment as well. I agree that Anna is, I'm more on her, she's appropriately paranoid. And even though maybe it is her leaning in general, given her upbringing. And yeah, what is up with these people? Like, I have so many questions where I'm like, you, Patrick Wilson, are telling Anna to calm down. And you really do seem to be like, maybe it's not Max, calm down. Let's take this one step at a time. As soon as someone's jumping in their pool in the backyard, he immediately runs for his gun, which seems to be an overreaction for sure. So he obviously is on edge and is worried. So why is he telling her it's okay when he obviously seems worried himself? There could be some commentary there that, he has to be like, I'm the protector of the house, and he's trying to keep her calm. But actually, there could be something that's being said there. But then he's got his coworker show up when she's out of town, which kind of jumping later. And he has him over, and, Zach's in the house. And you know what? Like, keep an eye on your kid, man. Like, what is going on? Like, you're not bringing stability into the house to be microdosing and flirting with your coworker in the other room where your son, who just bit his toe off a day ago, is upstairs. And you're kind of just like, just stay in your room, son. Don't worry. We'll check in on you later. Like, all of this seems really odd. And one last really bizarre behavior is the daughter as well, who seems, should we be worried? Why, there's weird people popping up and follow me around, asking questions about this case. I know that my parents are worried about something. I overheard them talking about something that happened. And, but I'm going to take drugs with this random girl after my brother just got drugged by some weirdo. Like, what? These people need to be way more wary about maybe it's just, they have this entitled thought that nothing bad's going to happen to them. Maybe that might be some commentary. But I mean, in practical terms, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be hooking up with some stranger when someone's out there trying to get at my family, possibly. That system glitches out. But one thing it did seem to have is this conversation that happens between Max and Zach. And Zach does not confess that they had a conversation. He says, oh, maybe he shook my hand, but it seems to be like there was more than that happening. Meanwhile, by the way, down at the prison, Anna does do a good job of getting that payout from the prison to go from $1 million to $4 million.
Pretty good.
40% commission. Is that standard, by the way?
So this was a little nit that bothered me a bit, that an attorney would never call it a commission. We call it a fee.
Right.
And generally we call it a contingency fee. Commission sounds like you're selling a house, right?
Right.
These are people, and we don't take a commission on how we value their injuries. It's a fee for doing the work of litigating the case. 40%. So standard is a third, but we also not generally, I have seen fee agreements structured such that the earlier in litigation the case settles, the less the fee is. This seems fairly early in that I think he was just released. So this action just started, maybe? I don't know. Was it ongoing for a while? Perhaps, and I missed the reference. But if this is early in the litigation, 40% is very high. If this has been going on for a long time, then 40% is not unusual. But the default is a third. She threatens to make a
Netflix documentary about it.
Yes.
He makes a good point, by the way, that it's just like, he had $1 million or so on it. I forget how much the exact amount was, if it was $1 million or $1 million and change. But, minus they take their 40% and
that's right.
Taxes and everything. It's like, well, it's better. Not as much better as it sounds, though.
I assume he also will have a wrongful conviction lawsuit going. This seems to be about the violent incident that happened in the prison, but I assume he will also have a wrongful conviction lawsuit that will pay out much more.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, actually, because this is just about that attack. Yeah. So he's probably got millions more dollars coming.
Yeah. 17 years should be quite a payout. Yeah.
Is there a standard metric? Do they have a way that they usually
Unfortunately, because it is like, how can you put a value on something that is so awful? It feels like the settlements, assuming the case does not go to trial, it feels like the settlements for wrongful conviction generally end out in the ballpark of $500,000 per year.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Per year. Wow.
Yeah.
That night, Natalie's at the party. She's wearing the little dress with all the frills. The video leaks from her phone. So somebody's tech savvy enough to clone her phone, send out that. Of course, the drone that was following her while she was exercising earlier. We see that one of the people here who is mocking her is actually the brother of the girl whose photos were leaked by the brother, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Tom has that work partner over. This is what that voicemail we saw that he kind of blew off last week, where she says we need to talk about what happened. And I'm like, oh, he's having an affair. Apparently no, but almost having an affair.
If my husband was kissing another woman, I would consider that cheating.
I mean, well, I'm just saying there's degrees, because there's not like in for a penny, in for a pound, like, oh, we kissed. Now you go,
degrees of bad. Yes.
Right. Oh, yes, it is. I mean, I think if you're just flirting to that extent, it's already a form of betrayal, right? But at least it's not.
It could be worse.
It could be worse.
It could be much, much worse.
Exactly. And of course, he is tempted.
To me, what struck me about this is his son is in the house.
Oh, yeah.
That to me is bananas.
Yeah, this goes back to the idea that not only like the safety of the family, like kind of what you were touching on earlier, like how seriously are these people taking this? I don't just mean like how seriously are they taking a possible threat from Katie. I'm talking about like just in general, the problems you're having in your family. Like if you're keeping an eye on your son, then like keep an eye on your son. Don't be like, go up into your room where you're talking to God knows who on the phone, and maybe you're in the house or maybe you snuck out, and I'm going to be down here trying to hook up with my coworker. Like that's not the spirit of the.
Yeah, maybe because they microdosed whatever mystery substance, his judgment is off. But terrible idea.
What do you think? I've heard this online. What do you think that? And I think that the creators of the show have actually overtly said this, that one of the big themes here, unlike the previous versions of Cape Fear, it's kind of like the anxieties of the time. So what do you think about it? Is this show almost feels like it's slipping into euphoria paranoia it's in some places here, but this idea that you could be physically in the house with your kids, but this is like a new anxiety now where there is like someone might be spying on you through the drone, through the security camera. You think you have the security, but maybe it's spying on you. And not only that, your kid's in his room, but he might have been seduced, or there might be a threat from these people online as well, right? So that you, honest, in a way, even when you've cloned their phone, they might have a burner phone, right? So it's like it's not even like this. Supposedly, you're like, oh, we have all this surveillance, but you can't possibly actually know what's happening. And I think that is probably a parental paranoia that we all have now.
For sure.
What do you think about that as a theme here?
I hadn't really thought about it, but now that you're, at least in that way, but now that you're raising it, I think it's an interesting idea that, and I think this is carried through, that there are intruders in your house. They may be there physically, they might be there through cyberspace, right, that you have no idea are there. And that is very creepy.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a new tension. If you think about a home invasion show or movie in general, that this is in a way a home invasion because your family is being manipulated, but it's not because somebody like paid somebody to do so. Someone has just like gotten access to your emails or just your, maybe even listening in. I think that's something that is hinted at, even though there is someone physically there in episode 1 or episode 2 when you see somebody in the doorway. Very chilling image, by the way, which may very well have been Nevia back then. And she may have been there, not even like hiding in the house. She may have been there by invitation of the son. And because he had that pile of food, and the daughter is like, oh, who are you feeding? You have like an army that you're feeding up there, or a family you're feeding up there. And maybe it was food for him and for Nevia. So he may very well know she's there. But when they're having that conversation in the kitchen and you hear it echoing around and the camera like pans over the security system, which is glitching, And you're like, they could just be like all this. How do they know all these things about us? They could just be eavesdropping on them.
Right.
And of course, there's secrets that they're keeping there that the security cameras can see. Like, for example, that he has this woman over and the conversation they're having. All this stuff may be monitored and can be used to rip these people apart. What do you think about that scene where he's just like, we really can't? First of all, he is like, we can't do this, right? And then after saying we can't do this, he invites the woman over. And even though it is for work, it's also like, I'm inviting you over because my wife's not around, right? Okay. Yep. All right, Patrick Wilson, what the hell's going on there? Number one. Then, of course, the fact that it gets a little seductive, but he's like, we almost did it, but at least we didn't cross the line. And she like pulls the flask out of her purse. And he's just like, hey, why don't we just microdose instead? And I'm like, okay, if you don't want something to happen, this is not the next course of action to have.
Yeah, totally agree.
So anyway, all this is talking out of both sides of his mouth at the same time. Oh, hilarious, by the way, intentionally or not, when he's on the phone with Anna and she's like, oh, the storm broke, you're on your way home. And that as soon as she hears his side of the conversation, she starts packing it up.
Gotta go. Yeah.
She's like, I know what that means. Gotta go. Flax goes back in the purse. Oh, and of course, back at the party, I should actually have some details there as well. So earlier on, party's going the whole day, apparently. So Natalie's there. Nevia's there. This is now her new way of getting into the family, potentially. And we have like a gender flipped seduction scene. Like we have notoriously the scene where Robert De Niro, a scene that probably would never occur in a movie now, but like, she's a teenager, by the way. Juliette Lewis is like a teenager in that film, her age, the actresses, and did not know that Robert De Niro was going to stick his finger in her mouth.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Very sketchy behavior back in the old days. But of course, we have, again, here's the seduction scene. Someone's pretending to be one thing. And so there's, like I said, it's a gender swapped version of that scene. She puts her finger in her mouth, of course, to put the drugs in her mouth in this particular case. Again, what is that stuff they're taking? I guess she takes it too because they make out as right after she puts it into her mouth. So maybe it's not that toxic, but she does complain that it's very intense. And in the middle of all this, they have a conversation back and forth. And again, I think this is going to be important some way that we were wondering, what is the parentage of this girl? And we thought, of course, it seemed to be the case that the most obvious thing is, of course, is Amy Adams, or not the obvious thing, but maybe what we speculated on, that it was an affair between Amy Adams and Anna and Max.
Although, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to speculate on the fact that she has her say that, she basically has her confess all these things. I always try to do the right thing, but I feel like I'm always just like looking at things happening and I'm not actually experiencing them, which of course is a lot of what like good girls or good anybody often have that kind of feeling about it. But more importantly, towards the end of the conversation, she says, doesn't it feel sometimes like they're not your family at all? And she says, yes, they're not my family at all, which then makes me wonder, like, is it possible that they're both not her family, and how that would logically work in the show?
Yeah, I think there's the whole story about her being pregnant and giving birth. And that's when she fell in love with Patrick Wilson. I guess there is the possibility that this is not the same child, but it hadn't occurred to me.
Yeah. And then, then there's some crazy speculation. You could imagine that Katie's child died at around that time, but what if the child didn't die? What if they swapped the children? That is crazy. That is there's a series recently that you might have seen or maybe didn't. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but where there's a swapped child type situation. But that wouldn't make any sense because you're thinking about the fact that he did take her to the hospital to have the kid, and also that Katie's child was supposedly a boy. That's what he keeps saying, but I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, or if it was just speculated on.
I did like, by the way, that they didn't have any of the hallucinations of his family in this episode. Yes. I feel like that was just taking it one notch too far, together with all the violence. Maybe if they broke up the violence and the delusions, it would not seem so over the top, but it was a bit much for me in the first two episodes.
Well, that's part of what made me think that even before we had seen the Nevia character, that whoever that character was, even though I misidentified it because it's yet another character, I assumed it was all just one other person we were talking about here. But regardless, that the Nevia character, which we just find out here, I had assumed that when Zach is having that kind of hallucination and sees the figment of the AI boy as he would appear now, that he might have been seeing Nevia or whoever that person was at the time and seen them as the AI generated version of the grown-up kid, because there was some similarity between the two of them. And then she's kind of in, like, oh, I see that other vision of that kid. So that would make that maybe there's a relationship between this kid, this girl, I should say, and Max. But then again, like I've been working on that supposition this whole time. And then like it doesn't, some of the things that happen here don't seem to add up. Especially again, like go back to the whole idea that if this is also Katie's child, then, and I should say that Natalie is also Katie's child, then like what are they doing making out with each other here at this point?
Okay, so going back to that though, I felt like the scene where Max and Anna are in the motel together, where he says to her, what happened one day, you just looked at me differently, or at least I think that happened in the motel, but you know the conversation I'm talking about. And he says, we were friends. And it felt like the way he said it, it was just friends to me.
Yeah.
Not like there was no weird tone to the way he said friends, or like we were friends and even more than that or something.
There was a weird tone to the way he said friends, but just because of the combined Louisiana.
Well, sure. Yes. But I meant like connotations of it meaning more than friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like that didn't seem there to me.
Oh, yeah. That's a great segue, because that was the scene I was going to say that I thought was the best scene in the show. And he feels really hurt when he's talking to her. And I completely agree. I feel like if he was going to hint, Anna, remember what we had or whatever, right? Especially because earlier on, he's like saying, I haven't had the feel of a woman in so many years. You can imagine him just flirting with her more overtly to just feel it out, because he just wanted to see, or even if it was just a head game, that it would be something that he would do there. And they have this opportunity where they're not performing for anybody.
Right.
They're not like in the car with anybody. Yeah. They're not in a meeting. They're literally the two of them alone. And there is none of that. I totally agree. So I do agree with you that I think that makes that whole conversation much more unlikely at that point.
And by the way, I did think it was, speaking of the character development of Anna, I thought it was interesting in that scene at the gas station where he says, I haven't felt the touch of a woman in 17 years to the podcaster lady, documentary lady, whoever she is. I bet when he turns away, he's smirking and so is Anna. I thought that was a little bit of I thought it was kind of cute, that scene, that he's coming off in a way that is very scary to that journalist, but actually he's screwing with her and Anna knows that.
Right. Or is she smirking because she goes, not 17 years. That's another way to read that. But no, I agree. I mean, even in that moment, by the way, I thought that might be the shared smirk between the two of them. But I don't buy that because for the reasons you said, I think that in that meeting, when they're alone, he would have been more overt about what he was
something
insinuating, for sure. Yeah, all this scene is really fun to watch. I like how Anna goes into the hallway. And again, we saw, this is again playing on our expectations. There's a really brutal rape scene in Cape Fear, the De Niro version, that, and then she goes into the hallway and you think like, oh my God, is he raping that podcaster lady? But no, she's in there with somebody else. And he's just in the hallway listening. And he goes like, let's go grab a drink so we don't have to listen to this. And then they have that interesting conversation. I like how he says that, that Anna brings up the fact that there was some weird lady. Oh, importantly, got to bring that up. Of course, there's a weird lady wearing a mask in the hallway.
Right.
And the irony there, of course, is like, we're covering the mask because who is it? We don't want anyone we don't want the characters on the show to know who it is. No. We don't want the people at home watching this TV show to know who it is.
Funny.
Anyway, so the weird lady in the hallway, he goes, yeah, a lot of the weird ladies who communicated with me, going back to that point before. A lot of ladies when I was in prison. Yes, I'm sure that happens, unfortunately, on his case. And this is where he makes the whole thing. He calls her a pit bull, which of course he loves dogs. So that's actually a positive thing, I think, in his mind, even though he does undercut all that, going like, wow, you were really impressive in there. $4.2 million. But let's subtract. So nonetheless, it was still, I think he was trying to compliment her. And that's when he says, what happened? And that's another question now, with yet another mystery for this show. Something came to light during her defense of him, and it turned her against him. Or it's the fact that maybe it could be something as simple as she fell in love with Tom, and Tom asked her to throw the case or something, or get him to plea. And she did. And now she feels some kind of guilt for that. That would be interesting, because then it would be the fact that she is ashamed of what she did to Max, and she blames her relationship with her husband, which would be yet another tension. Although she goes home, and I think this is an interesting scene, first of all, where they have a sex scene, and it seems like very hesitant, like apparently this isn't commonplace, I think, for them anymore. And there's a kind of like that kind of hesitancy between the two of them. But I think what's implied there is that he's gotten worked up by his coworker, and she's gotten worked up by these interactions with Max. So it's a kind of weird sexual surrogacy there. And then we get to the end of the episode. Max has gotten a package in the mail. He still has a VHS. Apparently someone had a VCR laying around.
I thought she brought the whole contraption.
Oh, maybe that would make sense, that it's the tape and everything else, because yes, that would make sense. And it's Juliette Lewis, of course, from, I assume, not the character from the other movie, because
my brain was bending a little bit, being like, wait a minute, who is she supposed to be? Yeah. But then I thought this is a remake of that, even though it's not directly a remake. So it couldn't be, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense unless, I guess, that Max had a son called Max. So any guesses as to who this character is? First of all, she's singing a jingle of a dog's collar, which is from that Butthole Surfers album, the popular one they had. They really only had one popular album, the one that has Pepper on it. And so this was something that you would hear on MTV mid-90s. So they probably came up together, you assume. The dog collar, of course, is a reference to him being trained like a dog. She must be aware of this, right? It's like triggering something in his mind. So we saw in those flashbacks that he is in the cage. There's a girl at shore. There's a big crucifix on, he's being baptized by this father. So this is I'm guessing it's like maybe she was either a girl he just knew, or maybe it was the girl of the daughter of this adoptive father.
Yes, I think that latter theory is a good one.
But now she's back to mess with him. Do you think that she is just messing with him because she's just some crazy person who equally has the baggage of having this same upbringing and is just, now he's out of prison and she's back again? Or
it definitely doesn't feel like she has good intentions.
For sure, she does not have.
And she's been stalking him for a while, right? Yes. So
she doesn't seem mentally well either. Like when she's in the hallway knocking on the door, it doesn't seem like, she's there on purpose to mess with Anna or whatever. It's like she's just kind of talking to herself in the hallway. Like she does not seem to be, she's not the tech guru that's manipulating everybody else. I think she's just a very unstable person who he knows from his past, and she's like resurfaced.
Right. And then she says she's there to sing him the song, which I get. But then when Anna says this isn't his room, she's just like, okay, I guess I'll go home. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't knock on the next door.
Yeah. Strange behavior all around.
For sure. A strange lady. Okay. So I've been biding my time here. We didn't ask you this right off the top, but how did this episode work?
I actually, as I mentioned, I liked this more than the first two episodes, even though the first two episodes laid a lot of groundwork and certainly made a strong impression on me. I felt like they were a little bit over the top. This, I felt, was more in my zone of how I would like to see this story developed. It's intriguing. There's some strange stuff going on, but it doesn't feel like it's getting thrown at me at a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was vibing with this episode and the pacing of it a lot better.
Yeah.
I have to say that a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of buzz about the final moments of this episode because of Juliette Lewis showing up. And I was kind of like, in that moment, initially, I wasn't like, oh, wow, cool. I was like, what the hell is going on with this?
Yeah, it's definitely my reaction was, huh? Especially once she brings the dog collar out.
Yes.
So, yeah. Which I think we had also seen previously in the hallway of the motel.
Oh, in the hallway. Yes, yes.
I think she was holding it then.
So, yeah, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is amazing. It was more WTF. Yeah.
And the funny thing about it too is in having this conversation, the show also, I also felt like the show was just like, what the hell's going on? Like literally, like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Just in having this conversation, it settled it a little bit more for me because I think like she's not like, there's all this cabal of kooky ladies running around messing with everybody, that there's just the original mystery of like, how is this girl and Katie working together, or at least aware of each other and working in parallel, and what's their agenda with the family. He may just want to get to the bottom of what is possible, that this girl is actually the really dangerous one. And Katie just wants to know, like, was I railroaded? Like, I just want to get to the truth of what happened between the two of them and how I ended up in jail. And this girl could be, like the actual manipulator. And this, the Juliette Lewis character could be just like this ghost from his past, maybe just just part of his psychological wounds, not necessarily like she's some mastermind or something. So I just putting her on the side as just an additional side character and not like central to this ongoing plot made me a little more comfortable with what is being laid out here. I just thought of something as I was saying all that. Oh, but before we start thinking that Max Cady is too good of a guy, I am pretty certain, given the very distinctive accent, that he is the person on the phone who is driving his ex-girlfriend to kill herself. Now, it's possible that he did that because she actually is the villain and he's getting his revenge by manipulating her into killing herself. So that is a possibility. And there is definitely multiple times here in the show, by the way, the idea that through like training a dog and maybe using drugs as well, that you've had like this kid was driven to bite his own toe off, and Max was trained like a dog as well. And he's getting like triggers and flashbacks here, hearing this song. So I definitely think there's some level of mind control. So someone's being manipulated by somebody else against their will, basically. And maybe that's part of what we saw in that opening moment, that Katie can do this as well. But I guess that woman would have to have been prepped in some ways to be able to be manipulated by him. But it is possible, like I said, that could just be revenge. But if that's the case, then why did he wait 17 years to drive her to her suicide and expose that she had this weapon when he spent 17 years in jail, right? Like that seemed like a very long time, very long. If this was all like a long revenge plan by him, he could have done that after 3 years or 5 years. 17 years seems a very long time to wait.
I agree.
And even if he did do the killing, that's the other unanswered question here, of course, even if he did do the killing and he frames her now with that knife, why did he wait 17 years? He never waited 17 years. Like if she had the knife this whole time, or somebody had that knife the whole time, why did it take 17 years before this plot kicked in?
Yeah.
Things we can't know.
Not yet, anyway.
Right. Correct. All right. Thanks, Sona, again for the conversation. And we will touch base again next week.
Sounds good.
Right. Bye.
Bye.